From Brian to Erin, we're going to go over the other side of the desk. She's joining us here on set now with another look at the day's newspapers. Erin, you're starting in the US, aren't you? Now, this is a damning report on the controversial Postmaster General.
That's right, Stuart. According to the Washington Post, which has interviewed several former employees of Louis DeJoy's former company, according to this piece, he pressured his employees into making political donations to GOP candidates. Now, 5 people who worked for his former business say that he or his aides urged them to either give money or to attend fundraisers for Republican candidates, either for the White House or for Congress. Now, making matters worse, he actually apparently subtly paid bonuses to these people in order to reimburse them for their campaign contributions, which, of course, is totally illegal. In the state of North Carolina, where this all occurred, it is illegal to reimburse employees for campaign contributions because that allows donors to avoid individual contribution limits, and also it obscures the real source of money. So surely more to come on that. Now, the New York Times adds that it's unclear how explicit or extensive this scheme was. They quote former employees, one of which who said he did donate to a Republican candidate and never got a bonus, so he didn't suspect anything. And then other employees say that they had never heard of such an arrangement. The Times piece, however, also reminding readers that this comes on top of other concerns that have already been, talked about widely in the U.S. press about Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, one of which is that he still has financial ties to a company that does business with the Postal Service, so conflict of interest. And then on top of that, of course, all of the budget cuts that occurred this summer that led to fiascos with people not getting their mail on time or at all. This, of course, ahead of November's election in just 2 months, where people are going to be relying more so than ever on the Post for mail-in ballots.
Yeah, a lot more to come on that story, no doubt. Let's move on to another story out of the US. This is where people are still reacting to a university professor who lied about her identity.
That's right. Now, this story is strangely personal to me because I actually attended the George Washington University where this professor
But you
taught.
are really Erin Ogunki.
I am really Erin Ogunki. Okay. I am really African-American, contrary to this professor who for years, she's a professor, Jessica Krug, in colonialism and imperialism studies, who revealed last week in a very bizarre confession that she is actually not black but white. Now, what is strange about this story is that it looks like she toyed with several different identities before settling on her final one. At first, she was North African black, and then U.S.-rooted African-American. Then she was a Caribbean black from the Bronx, which is the identity that she settled for. The author of this piece, Karen Attia, on the Washington Post, pointing out that in describing herself as a child of the hood, ultimately, after toying with all of these different identities, she's essentially saying that in order to be authentically black, you need to be poor and from the ghetto, wear big hoop earrings, playing with a lot of cliches and this lied identity. And that for the author of this piece, Karen Attia, this behavior is really a twisted but perfect example of white supremacy because Krug used her fake black identity to gain access and notoriety to a prestigious university. And on top of it, she often criticized other real professors of color for not being active enough in the fight against racism and not doing a good enough job at bringing attention to these issues when she actually wasn't even a person of color herself. Now, a piece in this Socialist Quarterly, The Jacobin, has a totally different analysis, which I thought was interesting. The author describing Jessica Krug's behavior as a minstrel show, a racial caricature, but arguing that's what's more disturbing about this story is that it seems that there's a demand for this type of behavior in liberal academic circles. This author saying that he's learned over 40 years in liberal academic circles that some white liberals expect black and brown people to perform in ways that confirm what he describes as well-meaning but fundamentally racist expectations of black people. And he's saying that, that is what we really need to be combating, the environment that pushes people to conform to these stereotypes, white or black.
Yeah, incredible story, isn't it? Next story is out of Lebanon, this one. This is about the forgotten victims of last month's tragic explosion.
Yeah, that's right. Hundreds of African nannies, actually, who are now going without salaries in this post-explosion Lebanon, some of whom are starving. Now, the article says that after the explosion, the employers of these domestic workers had them gather their belongings, kick them out of the house, and drop them off at their consulates in the Lebanese capital. Now, these people have no rights in Lebanon, and their consulates are having hard times negotiating the necessary permissions to allow these women to leave the country. Now, the author notes that the workers are a part of the Arab world's kafala system, which is a migrant labor sponsorship system, which essentially gives individual employers total control over these domestic workers, control to remove their passports, control to charge them exorbitant fees if they ever want to leave their contracts before they're expired. And the author also saying that this is a part of what she describes as a racist hierarchy in which black workers find themselves at the bottom of the totem pole in Arab countries that use them, and that the darker-skinned women are the cheapest to hire, the most desperate, and the most abused, which is what we're seeing here, kind of left to their own devices with no rights at all.
And Erin's going to finish on a story for us. This is the story of the world's loneliest elephant, but it has a happy ending.
It's the type of story you'd like to hear more of. Now, it starts sad indeed, because this elephant named Kavan has been a symbol of animal rights activists for a while, because he has been living in a Pakistani zoo for 35 years. Now, Kavan did have a partner, but his partner passed away in 2012. So unfortunately, he's been alone ever since. Now, the zoo in Islamabad, Pakistan, was actually ordered to close last May because of poor hygienic conditions and negligence. So finally, over this past weekend, the remaining animals were given the go-ahead to leave, including Kevin, who had to overcome some medical issues. It's going to be hard for him when he joins a new zoo because he's strangely both overweight and also exhibiting signs of malnutrition. Also has some behavioral issues because of the boredom for the past, 10 or so years.
Yeah.
So he'll have to overcome them, but they are very optimistic that he will make a full recovery.
And we're all heartbroken. What's his name?
Kevin.
Kevin. Good luck to him.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Erin Gunke with the papers on France 24.